Before we jump into today's video, quick Venom trivia question. Venom Let There Be Carnage is only 97 minutes long in runtime, making it the shortest superhero film in many years. So the question for today is, which is the last superhero film to be shorter than Venom Let There Be Carnage? Leave your guesses in the comments down below and stick around to the end of the video to find out what the answer is. It might actually surprise some of you. Let's go ahead and jump into today's video.
Agent Romanoff, you miss me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
Hey guys, and welcome to 𝘨𝘪𝘵, your #1 source for all things films and movies, and there's a ton of excitement for Venom Let There Be Carnage, as this is a follow-up movie to a universe that Sony's been trying to establish for quite some time. And it very well seems like Venom Let There Be Carnage could be setting up the pathway for more movies in the future, with a larger Sony Spider-Man type universe, which they've been working on for quite some time, and there's definitely room for a lot of new possibilities as well. So, of course, with the possibilities being open for the future of this franchise, during interviews, a lot of the times the future is brought up, and it's really interesting to see how the cast and director kind of approach this without bringing up spoilers, or they try their best to avoid spoilers for the future of the franchise, and it's something that is really cool, even if it is a little bit awkward at times. For instance, there's this interview where Tom Hardy straight up asked, how do they go bigger for Venom 3? Almost seeming like they're fishing to get an answer as to who will be the big villain in that film. And Tom Hardy does such a smooth job at just spinning the question on its head and avoiding talking about anything else.
But how do you go bigger for Venom 3, Tom? Who do you bring in for the next one?
Obviously, Carnage is, he's a high priest in that aspect of the characters. It's like, wow, well, you got to go bigger, or you go lateral and build the world. It's about making the right choices at the right time, even with foresight of understanding where things may go already.
Now, the first Venom movie did incredibly well in the box office when it released 3 years ago, and there definitely is a lot of anticipation for this new film. And interestingly enough, there of course is speculation more films will be made in the future. And the way Tom Hardy flips some things when asked about future films is really clever, especially when he tries to talk about technicalities, and even when he occasionally accidentally mentions the Venomverse in fact being a thing. But it is really interesting to see how Tom Hardy spins a lot of these questions on their heads.
What do you see as the future of Venom? Do you have more ideas you want to tackle? Is there like a plan in place for more movies?
Oh, there's always a plan in place for more movies. There has to be. You can't start one without thinking about the next one, like in that aspect, because this one will lead to that one.
Now, Andy Serkis was brought on as the director of the film, and he seems very involved and passionate about the future of this character and what processes and what projects could come up into the future. And interestingly enough, when kind of asked about the future of Venom movies, there's the question as to whether or not we would see things like a Venom 3, 4, or 5, and Andy Serkis does seem hopeful about it.
There could be changing over Venom 3 and Venom 4 and Venom 5. He could become
Should we be so
person.
lucky? Yeah.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed.
In an interview with Woody Harrelson, who plays Cletus Cassidy in this film, also known as Carnage, and is a pretty menacing character, he was asked about the possibility of a crossover into any other Marvel Cinematic Universe films, and asked who he would like to face off against. Now, Woody Harrelson may just be acting oblivious to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or maybe he's not too familiar with some of the characters, so he tries his best to dodge answering anything specific, though his answer is still really unique and interesting to hear nonetheless.
Are there any other Marvel characters that you'd love to see Cletus go against, that you'd love to sort of be opposite on screen with?
I hadn't thought about that, but I mean, certainly Carnage, it seems like it could go against almost anybody.
Then, of course, one of the biggest talking points when it comes to Venom, of course, is the inevitable crossover that we will likely see at one point where Venom finally faces off against Spider-Man. But how that'll play out is still a big, massive question, especially if Venom is in fact in its own separate universe. They'd have to find a way to incorporate this character into a new universe. And while people at Sony probably have had some sort of discussion or idea on what they want to do and how they want to approach it, doesn't stop these questions from popping up, and actors like Tom Hardy have to try the best they can to answer the question while also not revealing anything whatsoever. For instance, there's this interview where Tom Hardy and Andy Serkis were together, and they talked a little bit teasing Spider-Man, but also avoided going into any detail.
Yeah, it's really hard because, like, for me and the guys in the Venomverse, you know, we came together under Sony, and that's who we you know, that's who we work for, that's who we run with, that's our team, you know.
But there was also this other time where we saw Tom Hardy completely on his own in an interview without Andy Serkis, and he kind of brings up Spider-Man on his own, and then also accidentally confirms the Venomverse, and then quickly pivots his answer and kind of rambles on a bit to try to avoid revealing too much, and it is kind of funny to look at.
If it goes, you know, so you have to leave your ley lines out just in case, you know, it's successful, which you hope it is, and you put everything into it and make sure that this film is, if it's the last film that we make, is fully rounded and is just standalone. There's some very interesting options that can happen with Venom, you know, within the Venomverse and within the universes that surround.
The multiverse is kind of cracking open.
In an interview directly with Andy Serkis, there is the question as to how Venom could fit into the Spider-Man universe, and while Andy Serkis tries his best to iterate the focus on Venom's story, he also does try to avoid answering any specifics and does a decent job at it.
And I kind of don't want to give any sort of fake hope or false information about things that might be happening in the future. I mean, obviously at some point, those worlds are going to collide big time. They are. I mean, if we are so lucky as to make more Venom movies, depending on this one. So let's see what happens on this one first.
There's this great interview where Tom Hardy is trying his best to avoid talking about Spider-Man or plans for Spider-Man, and he kind of alludes to it relating to landing planes and getting on a plane or something. It's really kind of disjointed, but incredibly clever because Tom Hardy just handles these things very well.
Spider-Man's in the mix. Yeah. He's somewhere. But we all know that there's a big constellation of events, you know, that need to move and operate around in you know, as grown-ups. We have to go, okay, we wait for those planes to land, and and when they land, we'll see if we can get on one. But until then, you know, we focus on the task in hand, which is Venom 2.
Now, in another interview, this one's kind of interesting because Tom Hardy's directly asked about the possibility of a multiverse and how the Venom universe could cross over into other universes. And Tom Hardy's answer is very unique because he does allude to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Disney and Marvel, but he doesn't talk about them directly. He never name drops them or anything, so it of course leaves those big questions still unanswered.
And in control of the situation, and he's not in control of the situation even in his real life. It's falling to bits, you know. And, rather than leaning into the resentful, I hate Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Venom and Eddie with the spider on the chest, that we 𝘂𝘁𝗄𝘃, which is another way in.
And then of course he also iterates that this whole thing with crossovers and the possibilities for the future is technically above his pay grade, and you can't really say too much.
Whether we can connect the dots, that's up to the constellations, and that's above my pay grade. But we would be remiss not to think about that.
So after seeing all of these interview moments of various actors and the director, for instance, trying their best to avoid talking about the future of the franchise while also trying to explain what could happen in the future of the franchise, does this make you more or less optimistic about a crossover with Spider-Man? It definitely seems like that's in the plans for Venom's roadmap at one point or another, depending on how well the movies end up doing. Now, it's still yet to see how well this movie ends up doing in the box office, as it is coming out very soon, but when it does finally release, this could pave the road for the future of the Spider-Man universe with Venom, or this now so-called Venomverse, and it is something that we're incredibly interested to see where it ends up going. But what do you guys think of all of these possibilities? Are you excited for the possibility of more Venom movies in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and make sure you are subscribed with notifications on for more videos like this uploaded every day of the week. Now, if you've been waiting for the trivia question from the beginning of the video, interestingly enough, despite the fact that Venom 2 is just 97 minutes long, which is an hour and 37 minutes, it's actually the shortest superhero film released since all the way back in 2007 when Marvel's Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer released, which was just 92 minutes long, which is an hour and 32 minutes. Interestingly enough though, the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe all have over 110 minutes in each film, with the shortest movies being The Incredible Hulk and Thor: The Dark World, each coming in at just 112 minutes. Kind of some interesting trivia there. That's it for today though, we'll see you all next time with a brand new video.
Tom, you've gotten us very riled up online a couple times with a couple of post and delete stuff on Instagram. I don't know if you can see this right now, but as the saying goes, we caught you in 4K. I want to know what these kind of Venom and Spider-Man posts.
You see what that is? That is like little Spidey legs hanging outside the mouth of Venom, doesn't it?